Welcome to the Kelly Healing Project, where we have real conversations about healing, growth, and stepping into your power. I'm Kelly, and I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is someone who has played a meaningful role in my own healing journey. Joining me is Glenda Emory, founder of the Divine Path LLC and the co-creator of Deep Quantum Healing, a healing modality designed to help people identify and release the root causes of emotional, energetic, and subconscious patterns rather than simply addressing the symptoms. Glenda comes from a long line of healers and has spent more than 14 years helping people navigate trauma, chronic illness, emotional wounds, ancestral patterns, and energetic blocks. She's also a psychic medium and quantum healer who combines intuitive gifts with a deep understanding of healing to help people move forward with greater peace, clarity, and freedom. I first met Glenda back in 2019 during one of the most difficult seasons of my life, and I'm excited to share her work and perspective with you all today. So, Glenda, welcome to the Kelly Healing Project.
Thank you, Kelly. I am so proud of you doing this. I love
You.
this for you and everybody who listens to you.
Yes, thank you so much. So I'd love to start with your story. So
Okay.
can you tell us about your journey and what led you into this work?
Oh boy. Um, I've always had weird things happen to me. I grew up in a house that I feel like it felt like Grand Central Station for spirits because
Oh,
it was constantly spirit after spirit after spirit coming through the house. Some were nice, some were not so nice, and there was one that was there all the time that terrorized me at night. So I was always afraid to go to bed. I was afraid to go to sleep without a light on, even though that really didn't help. It still terrorized me. And I would wake up screaming literally every night. And over time, my parents just got fed up with it and they would ignore me. And so I would, get scared and I'd wake up and I'd go tiptoe down the hall so that I wouldn't wake them up because I get a spanking if I woke them up.
mm,
So I walked down the hall and I would go sit in the living room so I wouldn't have to be in my room because it wouldn't really mess with me anywhere else, just when I was in bed, when I was vulnerable. And so I've always had interactions with things of the unseen. And come to find out, my family, that runs in my family. My great grandmother did all sorts of wild stuff. She was the town healer. She was a midwife. She worked at a dentist office and would hypnotize the patients so they didn't have to have pain medicine. So wild things, but over time, I just kind of moved to, I thought everybody had these experiences. And so I just thought it was normal. Just went on about my life. And about 2011, I met someone that just, it was like a thunderclap, catalyzed me, woke me up, put all of this stuff in my face, turned everything on all at once. And so I had to learn how to navigate all the seeing, the feeling, the knowing. I had to learn to navigate all that. And the healing part didn't come about until I was working on my son because I grew up with my mother healing burns with touch. My dad smoked, and I was a very curious kid. If you told me, hey, don't touch that, it's going to burn you, I'd be like,
mm,
really? And I'd touch it. So I got burnt quite often. And my mom would grab whatever got burned and she'd hold it and she was saying stuff under her breath. I realized later she was saying it doesn't burn, it doesn't burn, it doesn't burn. But she would hold it till it didn't hurt anymore. And there would be no mark, no burn, and I'd go off and play. And so I learned that from her. And I had done it for my kids periodically. And my son was complaining he couldn't turn his neck. And it was too late to go to a chiropractor. There was no way I could get any help for him until the next day. And I was like, it just popped into my head. If I can heal burns with touch, and that's just an incredibly a dense amount of destructive energy, and I can clear that out, why can't I fix this? So I stuck my hands on him. Took me about 15 minutes. And took my hands off. You went like this. He goes, wow, mom, that's awesome. Thank you. And I was like, that's great. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I found my purpose. Wow. But then I was in bed for 3 days. I was completely drained. I was so exhausted, I couldn't move. And I was like, this is not okay. If I'm supposed to do this to help people, one person a week, maybe two, and I'm in the bed the rest of the time, that doesn't work for me. So I just kind of called out to the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, that, hey, I'm willing to do this, but I need to know how to do it so I don't hurt myself. And I'm literally on Facebook the next day and saw a Reiki class come up. It was 99 bucks for Reiki level 1. I was like, oh, that's cheap. It's like I can afford that. So grabbed myself, grabbed my husband, went and took that class and went, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. I'm giving away my own life force energy. And that is not how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to pull the energy through you and to the other person. You are the conduit, not the source. And so from that day forward, I didn't have any trouble with hands on healing for anybody else. Well, fast forward a little bit before, a little after that, I got, I guess you could say, hooked up with a mentor. And she's like, girl, you are all over the place. You need to hone your craft. And I worked with her for 6 months until I had kind of blown through all of her knowledge. And she's like, you don't need me anymore. I've never seen anybody grow as fast as you. I've never seen anybody master this stuff as fast as you. Go run with it. And so I did. I started seeing people on a regular basis for healing, for readings. It's morphed into more healing than reading. The readings pop in once in a while, and sometimes I'll have loved ones pop in a session that I'm doing for someone that they're not here for a medium session, but I'm like, has your dad passed? And they're like, yes. Why do you ask? I said, are you open to hearing from him? And 9 times out of 10, people are like, oh my God, yes, I've wanted to hear from him for years. And I'm like, well, he's right here, and this is what he's saying. So it ends up being a little value added, service they, because if they pop in, I'm not going to deny them, like, I'm sorry, they didn't pay for mediumship, you're going to have to come back. I don't do that. I just give it to them as it comes. And so I love what I do. Absolutely love what I do. I've seen a lot of people grow and change. I see whole families. I end up seeing one person and then, oh, you got to see my daughter. Oh, you got to see my son. Oh, you got to see my son-in-law. And so I end up changing the dynamic of the entire family, clearing ancestral lineages, clearing karma, patterning. And every family that I've ever worked with goes on to be happier and more cohesive and more together than they
Mm,
ever were before seeing me. I'm very honored to do what I do.
that's awesome. Yeah. Um, and you definitely played a big role in my healing as well. But one thing I want to ask you too, growing up, you said you had experiences with spirits. Did you know at the time that they were spirits, or did you question it and then later realize, wait, I was, connecting with the spirit? Did you
Oh,
know
I
at the
knew.
time?
I knew
Oh,
I
okay.
knew they were ghosts,
Wow.
and
Okay.
I knew and I'm grateful for it now. Back then, oh my gosh, it was awful. It's so much stress, and I think that's why my nervous system is hyper
Oh.
vigilant to this day still, because I got my sleep was interrupted all the time.
Mm,
And but even when I was playing in my room, I was an only child, and my dad was of the era children should be seen and not heard, and sometimes not even seen.
mm,
So I would be told, go to your room, go outside. Don't care what you pick, but go, you know, go do your thing. Leave me alone. And so I would be
mm,
playing in my room, and I would feel them come in, and I started learning that if I felt okay, I would just continue to play and I would ignore them. I could feel them standing over my shoulder, kind of being nosy, watching what I was doing. Um, and then they would just move on when I ignored them. And sometimes, though, I'd get this sense of dread. I'd get this sinking feeling. The room would get heavy. And I'd be like, ooh, boy, I'd go find my mom because they would go away when I'd find my mom. I didn't understand the why until I was older. And my mom, oh, yeah, I can see them. And I'm like, so they knew she could see them and they would hide from her. So going to her made it where they, okay, well, she's out of our grasp, but it helped me learn what it felt like, what negative energy felt like, what the negativity, the darkness felt like. So I knew to move away. I knew that I was uncomfortable. I needed to go find my mom. But I knew there were ghosts. I knew there were dead people. And I'm pretty sure back then everything was a ghost. I now know there's many different classifications for things. Some good, some bad, some in the middle that just don't care what we do. But back then, everything was a ghost.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I've read that you've had multiple near-death experiences. So
Yes.
how did those experiences change the way you see life, and did they deepen your gifts at all?
The early ones, I think I was around 3 or 4 when I nearly drowned in the Atlantic.
Oh.
We were in West Palm Beach visiting my aunt and uncle and my cousins, and they were several years older than me. And my mom and dad just let me toddle off into the ocean behind my uncle and his kids.
Mm,
And he didn't know he was supposed to look out for me. He was watching his own kids. And I got stuck in an undertow
mm,
and I went under. And luckily, my dad saw me go under and not come back up because I could see my uncle's leg. I could see the hair going back and forth with the water. And I'm reaching, I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I could just touch him, he'll look down and see. But I couldn't get to him. I was literally rooted in place and I blacked out. I don't remember coming out. I just remember coming to in my dad's arms, crying, coughing up water. Didn't stop my love of water. I will not get in the ocean if it's really rough. That still scares me.
mm,
But if it's calm and I can see my feet, I'm good. That I don't think that really impacted me spiritually very much. But fast forward to the death of, not the death, but the birth of my son. I nearly died. I about bled to death. And I'm sitting in my kitchen because I couldn't lay down. I had a horrible fourth-degree tear that was just, I had reconstructive surgery. It was so bad. And I could not lay down because I was so full of fluid that when I laid down, it pooled in my lungs and I would wake up suffocating.
mm,
And it scared the crap out of me to wake up and not be able to breathe. So I slept to the kitchen table for like 6 weeks and I would sleep on a pillow like that. And I remember this was like my second or third night home after being in the hospital for 4 or 5 days with him. And I felt a male presence behind me. I had just fed, changed his diaper, pumped because I was trying to nurse, and I had just put him back to sleep. And I had just laid my head down and I felt a presence behind me. And I thought it was my husband because it was male. And I was like, oh, Jesus, you're a little late, dude. I was a little irritated. I turn around and there's an angel standing in my kitchen. And I'm like, whoa. And I said, hello, you're here for me, aren't you? And he smiled and he nodded and he said, yes. And I said, do I have to go? And he kind of cocked his head to the side, like, well, that's an odd question. Um, and he's like, well, no, but why would you want to stay? I says, well, who's going to raise my son? And he's like, his father will. And I went, oh, his father's an idiot. No. And not that my husband's a dumb or an idiot. It just that time, my husband knew nothing about raising babies. My
mm,
husband would have just handed our son off to his parents. And that would have been that. Um, and I was like, oh, heck no. And so when I said, oh no, his dad's an idiot, the angel actually chuckled and went, okay. He says, so you want to stay? And I was like, yes, if I can stay, I want to stay. I want to raise my baby. And he says, well, you're going to suffer if you stay. And I was like, I don't care. I want to stay with my child. And so He says, he nodded. He said, okay. And poof, he was gone. And then I went to sleep. And I think that kind of opened the door because I had never seen, I think at some point in my childhood, because of the things coming through the house, I blocked myself from being able to see. Children can do that. If they don't like something, I don't want to hear this, I don't want to see this, and it's a spiritual nature, it's immediately shut down for most of them. And for me, it was my sight. I could hear them. I knew they were there, but I could not see. But this was the first time I'd actually seen something with my naked eyes. And it was shocking. But then I got involved in motherhood and had another kid a few years later, which I was terrified when I found out I was pregnant. Like, oh, please don't let me go through that again. But I didn't. Second birth was much better. But I think that really started me down the path. It just didn't come to a head until I met that person who catalyzed me and opened every door, flipped all the switches, and sent me on my way. So I've had other experiences after that. I had an intestinal infection that almost went septic. And I still worked while I was dying because I didn't know I was dying until after the fact when I went to the doctor finally and like, what do you mean you've been this way for 3 months? What are you doing? So I think it's a miracle I didn't pass with that infection.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Wow,
yeah.
that's a lot. And that's a lot
It
of,
is.
oh
It is.
gosh.
But that I think opened up even deeper healing for me, deeper experiences, because I spent a lot of time kind of in the in between. I wasn't awake and I wasn't asleep. I was in that really narrow window that everybody, when you're in that window, that's when you have those vivid dreams, you have the visions, you have the downloads. And I love that little sweet spot because we get so much information when we're
Mm,
in that space. And I spent 3 months in and out of that space and mostly in it because I did sessions I don't remember doing.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's crazy.
it is.
Wow. So one thing that really stood out to me is your approach of healing the root instead of peeling back layer after layer. So
Yes.
can you explain what deep quantum healing is?
Yes. So I I've taken all sorts of classes and I'm at the core quantum healing, a quantum healer. Quantum goes above and beyond Reiki and any other method of healing because it encompasses the smallest particle. It encompasses, there's no space or time in the quantum field. Everything is connected on a quantum level anyway. So, working in the quantum energy field, you have access to more frequencies and a higher concentration of frequencies than normal. And so, being able to navigate that makes me much more effective with people one on one. But I knew that most healing, you start at the beginning. You start at where they're at right now and you work your way backwards. You work through the layers, and the body can only release so much emotional energy at one time. So you have to go back for session after session after session. And I'm an impatient person. I know this. I like to move fast. I don't like to sit in my crap for eons. I like to get in, get it done, and move on to the next thing. I don't like having 15 sessions for one thing. It frustrates me. It doesn't move fast enough for me. So I was talking with Susie Rodriguez. She's on the Divine Path team. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And we just started talking about it, and it just downloaded immediately into me. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. So essentially, we take you to a meeting place that we have created in the quantum field. And that meeting place is very protective, but it's like kind of a central hub. Your higher self is there, your ancestors are there, your guides are there. And you can even have beings that are very high consciousness, that come in to help when they're called on or if they're necessary. And you take the person into that meeting space. You get them into a theta state through some relaxation techniques, some very light hypnosis. It is not full blown hypnosis. I am not a hypnotist. I'm not certified in that. I don't claim to be certified in that. But what it does is it gets the brain waves in the right frequency to be receptive and to bypass the consciousness to access the subconscious. Then you go in and you work with the higher self, because the higher self is the higher aspect of you. It's one step from God or source, whatever you call it. Um, I was raised Southern Baptist, so I still say God. It doesn't bother me, but some people it offends. So, we don't care. God, source, creator, higher power, whatever you call that, we're good with using that terminology with you. But we guide you into that meeting space. And from there are different places that you can go that we've created. You can go into your Akashic record. You can actually take your book off the shelf, open it, look at it. You can go into a past life, and we have two spaces that immersive past life where you're in that body. You are actually look down and you are different. You're a different gender, you're wearing different clothes, you're in a different time. And you walk through that lifetime to fix problems that are still occurring because of a connection to that lifetime. If that's too intense, we have a movie theater where you have a remote control and you sit there and you fast forward, you can pause. And we never take you up to the point of your death, because to me, that is unnecessarily traumatic. Watching yourself die, experiencing your death. I don't want to do that. And I sure as heck don't think most people want to do that. It's not necessary to fix it. And we also have a protector guide with you that walks with you hand in hand the whole way through, because this can be very scary for people that they don't know what to expect. But we work with the inner child in that space. We work with ancestral stuff in that space. We fix the Akashic record because sometimes it gets messed up. We go into other spaces. There's one that I've just added called the main control room. And I've done this testing in a few sessions that I've got a client who has an intense histamine response, and her body's pissed off all the time. And it's really interfering. And, if anybody who has the MACS, that's a bad histamine response. Like, it's intense. You can't eat anything without a reaction. You can't wash yourself without a reaction. You can't wear makeup. You can't put anything on your skin or ingesting it. It's just your body's constantly in an allergic reaction. And it's unbelievably painful. It's just rough. Well, we did the control room with her, and I was like, I had a sense that she had fear all embedded. The program of fear was embedded through her nervous system, because histamine responds from the nervous system first. And so if you relax the nervous system, the histamine slows down. Then you can get a handle on it. So I guided her into the main control room, and I said, I want you to see your body as just kind of an outline up on the screen. And I want you to see all the places. Are there lights that turn red throughout the nervous system? She's like, yes, the whole nervous system's lit up red. I said, okay, we're going to change those to green. We're going to calm that down. And so let me know when all of it's green. And it took a few minutes, and there were other programs of suffering. We had to go back. Okay, we're going to stop this. We're trying to release the program of fear through the nervous system. Other programs kept popping up, so we had to deal with those programs first. So we peeled back all those layers in that one session. And her eczema gone after one session. Literally the next day she woke up, her hands felt better. They weren't itching, they weren't burning, and she hasn't had a flare up since. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So that's the beauty of this technique is that, as if I'm working with you, I am looking at your energy. My body is generating frequencies that your body is missing or asking for. So I'm basically a frequency generator, a life force giver that is getting your body back to what's called homeostasis in the medical field. That's balance. Everything's working properly. And as humans, our energy system needs to work and function correctly. It needs to be in balance. It needs to flow because we're not just flesh and blood. We're electric. We are light beings. We emit light. Our fascia emits light. We emit frequencies. Every single person on the planet, whether they are Christian, Muslim, whatever, it doesn't matter. We all do the same thing. We are all creatures of light, and that is measurable scientifically. So all of this stuff works to get you into balance. But sometimes I don't understand from my human perspective that the problem that you're having with your hip is not a functional problem with your hip. It's because your mother did something to you when you were an infant, but it also relates to a past life where there was a contract in a past life. So it kind of goes and jumps all over the place to find where everything is connected and get all of it out. So clean sweep. Usually, if it's really, really deep and it's a really complex problem, they may come back, two times, sometimes three, but usually after that third visit, they're good. I don't hear from them again because their problem's resolved and they can move forward without it. So it's a really deep and profound healing method that I'm very excited. We do teach them. We've got new classes coming up and starting August 17th, I think.
mm,
Yeah, I think it's on my website. Nope, August 5th. Sorry, August 5th on Wednesdays. And we teach it, and it is a certification course. So we sit with you to help you really learn and navigate. And you don't need to be a healer to understand this stuff
mm,
because we lay it out. We include business information so you understand the business aspects of it. And it's all one fee. A lot of these places want you to take chunks, and you have to pay per class, per module, whatever, and it ends up being really, really expensive. But this is I call it a healing business in a box because it's just one and done. Yes, it takes some time to learn it, but we walk you through every step of the way, and we're even there after the fact to help you. If you get stuck, if you have something you don't understand, we're there for months and months after, and pretty much anytime after. And anybody who takes the class once is invited back to retake it for free whenever we
mm.
offer it.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if you take it and you end up not doing anything with it for a while, and you're like, man, I need to retake this class. We'll come back. Take it again for free
Mm,
because we want you to use it. We want to get this out there because this is quite literally
yes.
life changing.
Yes. And that is awesome. And you said you were talking about the histamines, how
Mm-hmm.
it was responding to the nervous system first. It's funny because I had horrible allergies as a kid. It started when I was 5. And most likely it was probably related to my nervous system. I grew up in a very toxic household. My mom was
Yeah.
just all over the place and you never
Mm-hmm.
knew what you were going to get. And so I was always on edge, walking on eggshells. And so it
Yes.
makes sense completely, and a lot of
Yeah.
it was fear. And
Yeah.
I no longer have allergies anymore, so it's great. But I was going to ask you about the so ancestral healing is something many people are curious about. So can you explain what it actually is to somebody who's not very familiar with it?
Sure. We inherit, and this is scientific, this is not woo woo. And I love when the scientific matches the woo woo, when they meet up and they support each other. That is absolutely wonderful. I love that because I'm of a scientific mind before I was woo woo. And now I like when they, both of them work together. And so we inherit trauma. And they've
Mhm.
studied this phenomenon with like the Holocaust survivors. Their grandchildren, their great grandchildren did not experience anything that they went through, but they have the markers of that same trauma in their DNA because it changes the DNA. And that can be passed your epithelial DNA and your mitochondrial DNA. One comes from your mother, one comes from your father. You can trace back to the original person that you came from way, 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 way thousands of years ago. That trauma takes 13 generations of not reoccurring to be completely wiped out of the genetic lineage. And so we can have, if your mother had problems with money and her mother had problems with money and her mother had problems with money, you're going to have problems with money. In my family, it was infidelity. Infidelity. My mom experienced infidelity. My grandmother experienced it. Her mother experienced it. I experienced it. So when you work through that, you go through and the way I do it is I call in, I ask, I never summon, you never force spirits to come forward. That is not nice. That's not ethical. If someone summons, that is not good. We ask, please come forward. Would the mother and father side please come forward? And for me, I love that they line up by generation. So I can see the mother, I can see the grandmother, I can see the great grandmother, and on back to whoever it began with. They're lit up for me. So the origination point, whether that's 6 generations back or 20, doesn't matter. I see who it started with, and I start working with that generation, and I put healing there to release the blocks, to release the karma, to release anything. And sometimes, yes, sometimes we get generational curses that are created because somebody pissed somebody off and they cursed your lineage.
Mhm.
That is a real thing. It's rare, but it is a real thing. And so you go in, you reverse the curse, you heal the situation, and then you pull it forward. And you keep pulling it forward until you get to the current generation. Then you pull it even further forward to the next generation, the one after. So that would be like, for your instance, your boys, I would do it for them, and then I would do it for their children. And that cuts it completely out so it doesn't come back. So that releases that for the family. Anybody living that's connected by blood, doesn't matter that they were not included in the session, they get benefit from it.
Mhm.
And so all that trauma that those ancestors passed on, any karma that you agreed to take on for the family, gone in one session, typically.
Um, I feel like, at least for my lineage, I feel like there's been generational curses, and I feel like I've been trying so hard, and I know I've made a dent in it to overcome that, and even with money, and not having enough, that lack. Well, we don't need that anymore. We don't need
No.
that lack mentality.
Mm-mm.
And also the abuse. Like, when I was younger, I made a promise to myself, my kids were never going to feel the way that I felt. And I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know that it was abuse, but I just knew that something was off. And I was like, you
Exactly.
know, and so I just worked so hard to make sure that my kids know that they're loved and that I'm proud of them. And sometimes I'll say, I'm so proud of you. And they'll be like, for what? And I'm like, just being you, because you're a good kid. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just working so hard to break all of that, because we don't need any of that. Life is hard enough. We don't need any of that
Exactly.
negativity
Exactly.
and
But you
stuff.
have to understand that our parents are operating from a model that was bad.
True. Mm-hmm.
They didn't have an example of something better, so they did what they knew, what they saw, what they learned. And it takes a conscious, aware person to look at that and go,
Right.
yeah, I know they did the best they could with the knowledge and resources that they had, but I want to do better. Doing better
Mm-hmm.
is a choice. And a lot of people
Right.
just fall into those patterns of unconsciously and repeat the same garbage that their parents did.
Right, yeah. And I think a lot of people too, they operate from fear and,
Yeah,
and they just take, well, that's the way that my parents were, so that's the way that I am. Like they just accept it as normal and they don't
yeah,
see it as another option, but we don't have to operate that way. We don't have to instill fear in our kids. Like
right.
yeah, that's not
Yeah,
okay. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like not, almost not looking at it a way where you get like angry. That's how, why did they raise me this way? But they did the best that they could, and it's time to
yeah.
move forward, and it's
And
time to
and
do
it's
something
okay.
different.
It's okay to be angry. It's
Right.
okay to look back, especially when you start inner child healing and you look and you see, because inner child is also not just woo woo. That is scientific.
Mm,
Psychology recognizes when you have a repetitive trauma, such as neglect, an inner child forms at whatever age that you consciously
mm,
recognize the neglect. Or if something violent happened to you, something horrible, you had a car accident, or you had a death in the family that really impacted you, and you did not get the support to process and deal with it emotionally in the moment, your body stores energy, emotion. It
mm,
has to go somewhere. And so our consciousness fragments and it freezes that little piece at that same age. So you have a conscious little fragment in there that your little 5-year old can get triggered. And, if you ever looked at somebody, a grown adult having a temper tantrum and going, are they 5? And you're like, yeah, in that moment, they really are because
mm,
that triggered their inner child. And that inner child is screaming and pitching a fit because they're in fear.
mm.
And so we have to go in and work with each of those little pieces. And that way, you're less triggered. You're more whole on the conscious level.
Right. And I love how you said that the body stores energy. And that's because that's something I don't think a lot of people realize because I did talk therapy, like trauma therapy, for over 7 years. It was weekly. And don't get me wrong, it did help. But then it's like there was a point in my journey where I was being pulled you know, to you and then also to Stacy as well, and it's like there was a different part of my story or my journey that like I needed to process some of that energy.
Yeah,
That talk is only going to do so
yeah,
much, and it's not to say that it's not beneficial. It is, but there's an additional layer to it that
yeah.
most people don't realize it.
But at some point, you have to stop talking about the story
True.
and make peace with it.
Mm,
And that's where talk therapy, I've seen people that they had a session with me and they're sobbing after their session. And I'm like, gosh, in my head, I'm like, I hope I didn't like traumatize them. I hope they're okay. And they said, and I asked to say, I'm sorry, did I upset you? And they're like, no, you just don't have a clue. You connected the dots that I've never connected. And
mm,
I feel like you have shifted me in one session what 20 years of therapy couldn't
mm,
because all they ever did was go back in and regurgitate and talk about it and talk about it and then the spiritual bypassing of, oh well, you've got to forgive and forget and be positive and no, it's you don't have to forgive. In my opinion, if you are wanting to forgive and it feels right for you, then go ahead, be my guest, forgive, move on. That's great. You can move on without forgiving though. And if it pisses you off
mm.
to think of forgiving them, you're not ready.
Right.
You may
Mm,
never be ready. And all of our emotions are valid. Too many people only focus on the love and light. No, 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 no. You've got anger brewing under the surface, but all you're focused on is love and light. And all that anger has to go somewhere.
right.
And
Mm,
it eats you from the inside.
mm,
So we need to acknowledge what we're feeling in the moment and that we have very valid reason for feeling that way. And we need to acknowledge it, honor it, then we can move on from it.
mm,
So we don't hold on to it. So we don't. I had one gentleman that came to me and he was having an issue with his hip. And this was physical hands-on healing at the time. And I was like, okay, I really need to put my hand under the back of this guy's hip. And I asked him, I said, I kind of have to cup your butt for just a second. And I stuck my hand there. And as soon as I did this to go on the side of his hip, so I'm kind of clamshelled, he immediately curled into a fetal position and started sobbing. And I got the vision of his mother doing some things to him that were not nice. He was an infant.
Mm.
And he started saying what I was seeing. It started just coming out of him. He sobbed and sobbed. But that energy was left side, which is female, and outside of us, that belonged to his mother. And it was coiled in his hip socket and around his hip bone, the ball of his hip. It was causing him dysfunction in that hip socket
Mm.
because it was like, hey, it's time. I need out of here. It's time to go. But you cannot let it go if you don't acknowledge it.
Ooh. Is that why sometimes people have certain things that pop up? Like it's almost like, they have certain things where their condition gets worse. And it's like, so basically it's the energy saying, I'm ready to be released. Is that
Yeah.
kind of it? Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Because
okay.
like hips is feeling unsupported. Hips and low back is when you feel unsupported. Shoulders suddenly, like you've never had a problem with your shoulders, and all of a sudden, like, what the hell? I'm going to the chiropractor like crazy. It's burden. What are you burdened
Mm,
about? Feet and knees is resistance to moving forward. And depending on if it's both or one side, it could be within you, or if it's other, it's outside of you. It could be somebody interfering that doesn't want you to move forward. So they're putting a stumbling block in your way.
oh. So can we really carry energy that isn't ours? And how do we know? So either an attachment or maybe somebody's emotions, possibly?
Absolutely. And we can live with them for years, to be honest, because they sit quietly in the background, and especially if these things come on early and you're young, you just kind of, it's like you've worn the same hat forever. You just get used to the
Mm,
feeling of it. But it causes dysfunction in that part of the body, whether that's a chakra, an organ, or a joint. And like if you have an attachment, most people will start having, excuse me, weird feelings, weird thoughts. Like you'll have more, everyone on the planet has intrusive thoughts. Everybody. It's just part of the human psyche. Nobody knows why we get those intrusive thoughts,
right.
of like, I wonder what would happen if I drove my car off this bridge. Um, Everybody has those. Doesn't make you weird, doesn't make you crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. It's perfectly normal. But if it's more than just a random here and there, and it's continuous, of you should go hurt
Mm,
that person, or you should hurt yourself, or you're not good enough, or you're awful, you should do this to yourself, that is an attachment because they attach in your central nervous system through the back of your skull or through the lower left shoulder blade. They attach to the central nervous system because they can control our thoughts, they can control our perceptions, and they can control pain. So, an increase of pain and feeling drained all the time, um, having nightmares or negative dreams, having activity in your house that you didn't have before, your animals acting strange around you, all of those are symptoms that you've got something other than just a stray emotion. But if you're an empath, and an empath is just someone who's here to help humanity by absorbing suffering. That's
mm,
their job. That's what we're supposed to do. Problem is we don't recognize that it's not ours, and we own it, and so our body has to work through it as if it is ours. But we can go into, if you're not like conscious of your energetic boundary and making sure it is solid and tight around you when you go in public, your energy is intersecting with other people. Our energy is sticky, so you're gonna, it's like, a fly strip where the fly comes and lands on it and it sticks. Well, you're walking home with other people's stuff, other people's baggage.
Mm,
That can cause problems. That can cause you to, when I first started doing the Reiki, I would experience the symptoms of the person that I was seeing for weeks to months after sometimes. So if somebody came to me with, say, kidney disease, I would end up having pain in my own kidney. And I did not recognize that, and I didn't know that I needed to identify it and say, hey, is that mine? And no, it's not. When we acknowledge that it's not ours,
mm,
it leaves immediately. But I did not have good energetic boundaries because of abuse. Typically, people who are abused have very weak energetic boundaries that are very permeable. So, things you have to understand that staying in this plane of existence, in our dimension, stuff needs energy. We're batteries to them. They
mm,
feed off of our human energy, and our human energy is very desirable in the spirit realm because it tastes good, it feels good,
mm,
and there's an abundance of it. So things
mm,
sometimes see the light that we emit and they're like, ooh, moth to a flame. I'm going to take some of this. Most of the time they take a sip and they go, they get what they need and they leave. There's some that, they have other negative intentions and they want to stick around and cause chaos for you. They want to cause pain. They want to cause
mm,
trauma. Those are more determined and those are conscious entities that like to cause problems. They feed off of it.
mm,
You know, addicts are they're typically the ones that I see that are experiencing the
mm,
nastier ones because of the
mm,
substances that they're using.
mm. So, how does somebody protect their energy or even clear their energy? I guess clearing is the same thing as protecting, kind of. Is that, or how
No,
are they?
protecting and clearing are two different things.
Okay.
Clearing is kind of like you wash your body, you take a shower, you cleanse your body of dirt and microbes,
Mm,
bacteria, viruses that we pick up in day-to-day life. Clearing your energy is much the same way. You can use salt water, taking a salt bath. You can use sound bowls. You can use, I make a fabulous smudge spray that I typically, I've got some right here. I
yeah.
keep it all over the house.
Yeah.
And I will literally just kind of spray above my head and let it rain down on me. When I'm doing hands-on healing, I will wash my hands with the intention that anything I've picked up from the client gets washed down the drain. So it's smudging with herbs, resins, sound, different frequencies. There's YouTube videos that are house clearing frequencies that work. They'll work on the lighter stuff. If you've got something really nasty, it's just going to piss it off. But
Mm,
a lot of it is intention. I really, really love visualizing the violet flame flowing through my body and filling my energy field because violet flame is purifying. And it will dissolve cords. It will detach attachments. They'll run from it because it burns anything negative. And then protection is oftentimes people don't realize you need to verbalize, hey, I would like protection. Protect me from, and name it, whatever you're afraid of. And it's also about frequency. If you have a high enough frequency and a high enough confidence level and your sovereignty, because we are sovereign beings within our own right, the only reason that entities can interact with us is because we're a vibrational match. And that's going to trigger some people that
mm,
hear that. But it's if you're not a vibrational match, they cannot get to you. They cannot reach you. You repel them. That's the law of nature. That's the law of frequencies. You have the opposite
mm,
frequency, it pushes it away. It's like two magnets. If they're the right polarity, they attract. If they're
mm,
the opposite polarity, they push each other away. You cannot get them to touch. So it's all about frequency, it's all about intention. What are you consuming? Are you consuming alcohol? Are you consuming substances that are illicit, that get you high? Are you doing activities that are not so wholesome
Right.
with people who are full of their own stuff? So
Mm.
it's basically you got to be mindful of what you're eating, what you're doing, the activities and the people that you're being around, because like attracts like.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I've noticed a difference when you said vibrational match. I've noticed a huge difference in just overall my life. And I guess it's more of my energy. And before, I didn't realize that it was, I don't know, almost like maybe my energy was cloudy, like there was a lot of things in there. I started
Yeah.
taking salt baths every day. I always do Epsom salt in my bath every day. And at the time, I didn't really know this. Well, I guess Stacy kind of helped me with it, but I didn't really understand it. But salt baths, eat better. Take
Mhm.
care of myself. I'm careful what I take in. I don't watch horror movies or anything like I
Yes.
don't want to associate with any of that fear, and I don't live in fear. And I've noticed a huge difference. Like I just
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, when you're confident, when you are mindful of what you are consuming, both visually, because even like social media, you're connecting with
Mm,
each person that you watch their video. So I try to stay on I have a guilty pleasure of I like scrolling. I will doom scroll when I am bored. And I try to keep things happy,
mm,
funny. That's
yes.
negative entities do not like laughter. They do not like joy. So if you are focusing on being happy, and that is again not doing spiritual bypass where all you focus on is being happy, because we're multifaceted creatures. We're going to have emotions. We're going to have days that you wake up and you're like, this sucks. I don't like this. I would like to see the world just burn to pieces today. For whatever reason, sit with it. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Healing
Mm,
is uncomfortable.
oh yeah. Hmm.
It's very uncomfortable. You cannot heal or grow in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, nobody is going to be on their path in their comfort zone.
Hmm. So true. So if someone listening today could remember just one thing from our conversation, what would you want it to be?
That you are a sovereign being, that
Mm,
you are absolutely 100% capable of healing the past and moving on from it. The past does not lock you in. It is something that happened to you. Sometimes it happened for you so you can grow,
mm,
but it's not a life sentence. You are fully capable of moving out of that and being in joy and having a full, healthy, wonderful life that you like. You're not stuck,
mhm.
and you don't have to be stuck. There are ways out of it, whether it's with me or someone else. You just have to do something about it.
Right. So if someone wants to book a session with you or to read more about your work, where can they find you and connect with you?
I have a website, the Divine Path LLC.com. They can find me there. I am on all the social platforms except Twitter or X, whatever you call it, under the Divine Path LLC. So we have a TikTok channel, we have YouTube,
Mm,
we have Facebook and Instagram where we post stuff there. And all of the ladies that are part of the Divine Path do offer sessions in different ways.
mm.
Um, so we offer a wide variety of services.
Okay. Awesome. So thank you, Glenda, for your time and,
Thank
just
you.
sharing all your wisdom and your journey. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Of course. So thank you so much for listening to the Kelly Healing Project. Remember that healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about reconnecting with who you truly are, healing the past, empowering your future. If you would like to connect further, you can visit me at thekellyhealingproject.com. I'll see you next time.